So honestly, I'm really excited to talk with you because it's my
Mm.
first time. I heard you gave an interview for Unlock with
Mm-hmm.
Asatake, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to go to SAT Tashkent, but I had some stuff and I couldn't, and now I have a
Yeah.
perfect chance.
Yeah. Great. I'm really excited about this one as well.
Yeah.
Also, should I have
So
my camera on? Can you see me when I'm screen sharing?
yes, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay. Great.
So we started. The live stream is on, and we can start as well. So welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Once again, it's our third day of our workshop, and today our guest speaker is Alloma Faizullaeva, who is freshman at Brown University, who is going to begin her studies in Rhode Island in the U.S. So, can you introduce yourself a bit more to our audience?
Yeah, of course. So, hi everyone. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. It's super nice to, that you took your time to join this workshop. So, as our dear host mentioned before, my name is Alloma and I'm from Tashkent, Uzbekistan. And this fall, I'll be going to Brown University, which is in Providence, Rhode Island. Maybe some of you know Brown is a part of an Ivy League. So, this is a very, very big opportunity for me to develop in terms of career and also academics. I hope to study something related to maybe political science, maybe international and public affairs, but also I really hope to combine my studies with economics and gender studies as well. I know this is not a very common thing to have. I guess that's all I can say. And should we get started?
Yes, of course, we can start
Yeah.
with your presentation.
All right, so my presentation, my workshop is going to be about incorporating personal elements into your college essays. And I came up with this idea, I would say, quite recently, and I realized that this is actually a very important thing that turns out that not many people pay attention to. Because when I was going through my application journey, I did it mostly on my own. I did not, show all of my essays to different people, and I wasn't really that active in this community of people who are applying to US colleges. So I thought of it as common sense, right? I thought that everyone was doing it, but turns out it wasn't true. So I thought that maybe it's going to be useful for you guys to see how you can incorporate, and I'm using this word incorporate very intentionally here, not making your entire college essay about your personality, about your hobby or your family, but being able to throw glimpses of you into your personality here and there and making it look you know like a complete picture. So, without any further ado, let's get started with the question, why should you even care about these personal elements? Isn't the SAT, IELTS, GPA the most important thing on your application? Well, it turns out they are important, as you can see through this common data set. Common data set is basically like a file that each university uploads into the internet every year, showing what exactly they're looking for. And just based on this file, you can see that they separate different factors in your application into two categories: academic and non academic. Obviously, everything that's related to academics is important, but if you think about it, like last year, or according to this common data set for Brown, around 60,000 people applied to Brown. And most of these people had amazing SAT scores, they had amazing GPAs, they were on top of their class. So everyone is qualified, or at least most of the people are qualified. So if you think about it, what makes it or breaks it, let's say, in terms of are you going to get in or not, are actually a lot of non-academic factors. So a lot of admission officers, they actually think about, are you going to fit in into the university's culture, into the university's community? And all of these are represented in the non academic factors. So things like interviews, extracurricular activities, they can be either considered or important. But what is the most important here? thing here is your talent and ability and character and personal qualities. And these are the things that cannot be measured, unfortunately, right? There is no scoring, I think. Well, maybe they do have something like that, but these things are very, let's say, you can change them up a little bit, you can present them through different lenses, and sometimes people can have amazing talent but they don't know how to present it, or sometimes a person can be so interesting in real life but when it comes to putting it down all on paper, they just fail in showing different parts of their personality. And that's exactly what I had during my first attempt in applying to university, specifically US universities. Maybe some of you know that I had two application cycles in my senior year and now during my gap year as well. So in my first year, I completely, did not pay attention to that whatsoever. There was nothing very personal in my application and everything was, quite random. There was my personal statement, there were my extracurriculars, recommendations, not everything was connected, let's say. So, what are even these personal elements? What are some examples of those? Um, we can separate them into two groups: stuff that is related to your upbringing and your culture, and stuff that is related to your personality and your passions and your interests and stuff like that. Speaking of the first group, you as international students, you need to, play this card. You are underrepresented on pretty much every single college campus, so you definitely have to think about how you can include some parts of your culture in your college application essays. Or I wouldn't say that you have to do it, but it would be nice because American colleges, they care about diversity. They want, to attract people from different backgrounds. And Uzbekistan is not a very popular country, let's say. So, what could you talk about here? You could either mention something that is related to your family background or some, traditions and values that are distinct to your specific nationality, let's say. Speaking of other, the second group, personality and passions, you could talk about your hobbies, interests. Another thing is essence objects and also things that bring you joy. I think the least obvious one here is essence objects. So this is like a thing of when you associate certain objects with certain people. So for example, when you hear Harry Potter, everyone's going to think of those like round glasses that he has in the movies, right? So stuff like that. So it's different objects that people in your life associate you with. So think about it, and maybe you can incorporate that very, very, in a nice way, throw it somewhere in your either supplemental essay or in your personal statement. And this is something that you will be remembered by. You want to catch the examiner's attention. You want them to remember your application, and being able to incorporate a combination of personal elements will actually make your application very unique, and it will also help you establish a human connection with your admission officer, because everyone just real I hope everyone realizes that everyone who applies to any Ivy League is academically qualified. No one is applying there having, I don't know, twos or threes in their GPA. So let's take a look at how I incorporated those personal elements in my Brown application. So right now on your screen, you can see a lot of the supplemental questions that Brown asks you. Brown has a lot of questions, but in terms of like big essays, there are only three. The first three are the biggest ones since they are at least 200 words, and the remaining four to seven are smaller questions, not that big. And the last, the eighth element, is the most interesting one. Something that's quite unique to Brown is their video portfolio. I highly, highly encourage most of you to go into YouTube after this workshop and search up Brown's video portfolio, and you will see so many amazingly well shot videos of people showing just who they are. So this is like another chance for you to show your personality, and Brown asks you to do it. This is not required, it is still optional, the video portfolio, but still, I haven't met any Brown student who has not done a video portfolio and still got in. So, I will not cover all of the supplemental questions, but I will try to show you how, in some of them, even though the topic asks me to do something differently, I still managed to include some personal elements. So, the first one is probably one of the most important supplemental questions, and this one is about the open curriculum and basically academics. This question asks us to tell them about any academic interests that excite you and how you might pursue them at Brown. Basically, what do you want to do? Do you want to study medicine, biology, politics, and stuff like that? I could basically be very, very straightforward and say, oh, I want to study politics. Brown is very good at it. Brown is an amazing school. Please let me in, right? But that would be quite boring and not very original. So what I decided to do, and I highly, highly suggest everyone do that, is making mind maps. I think that sometime last year during August, I made a ginormous mind map of all the little topics that I mentioned in my application. This is like the tiny little fraction of it. This is like a plan of an essay, but I had a ginormous mind map that had Alloma in the center and different, arrows going into different directions. So here, speaking of my academic interests, in my essay, I talked about two potential academic interests. They are not my majors yet. These are just academic interests. The first one is political science. So I'm still thinking about like what do I want to do, political science or international public affairs, but these are two quite distinctly related fields, let's say. So what I decided to do is I split my essay into two parts. The first part talked about how I became interested in those academic fields. And the second part talked about how I will study that and how I will explore them at Brown, basically. And the thing that I decided to do is show my interest by going back into childhood or early teenage years and tracing it back, basically, thinking of how did I even become interested in political science. And I started off with an example of as a kid, I would be very, I would ask a lot of random questions that not many kids ask. And one of the most important questions for me was why the hell do we have the same president all the time? Like I would see elections on the news, I would see that American presidents are changing, but Uzbek president for some reason stays the same. So this was one of the first questions that got me interested in politics, and this is how I basically came into this field, just by wondering why our president never changes. What is it in it? Right, so I offered a personal example. As you can see, it's also highlighted in blue. I love color coding. Blue represents my upbringing in Uzbekistan, my experience in Uzbekistan, let's say. So this is how I included a small little element of my upbringing, of my life in Uzbekistan as an, Uzbek citizen, of how I became interested in this specific academic field. Speaking of gender studies, I also included a personal example. I talked about how growing up in a normal Uzbek family, I was very surprised about how we divide household labor. So both of my parents are working. They're working full time. My mom is a doctor. My dad used to work in the, like let's say police. Both of them were working, but for some reason, only my mom was doing all of the household labor. So, like cooking and cleaning and preparing food. And these were the questions that I would just, randomly ask, like, why? And basically, I showed how I developed my interest in those distinct academic fields through by going back into childhood. It was either my family experience or just my experience living in Uzbekistan. And then the second paragraph basically talked about what I hope to do to explore these interests out. I hope that made sense. Speaking of the second essay is a very interesting one, and also I think UPenn or some other colleges had similar essays where they ask you to reflect on where you come from. Basically, show an aspect of your growing up that has inspired or challenged you, and how this will help you basically contribute to the Brown community. So, the main focus here is where you come from. A lot of people can interpret this question in different ways, and it is made that way intentionally, I would say. I actually thought about what would an average Uzbek applicant write about if someone else is also applying to Brown from Uzbekistan. I thought that, well, they're probably going to talk about being Uzbek, like, I don't know, plov or any other very cliche part of Uzbek culture. I really wanted to stand out, and I spent countless days brainstorming about this like community, or where do I actually come from. But then I decided to shift my focus on the second sentence, share an aspect of your growing up. So I realized that it has nothing to do, it doesn't always have to do something with, being Uzbek or growing up in Uzbekistan, but it can also be about family. So I decided to talk about one of my family members who is my grandfather. And back in the days, we used to live very, very close, literally like next door to my mom's parents. And my grandfather was a very prominent figure in Uzbek literature. He was originally, he served in the military as a military doctor, but he spent last 20 years of his life writing and researching about Uzbek World War II veterans. He wrote poems, he wrote books, mainly about military patriotism and Uzbekistan, basically. Right. So, the reason why I chose to talk about him is because, when when he was alive and I was, living right door next to him, I didn't really pay that much attention to it. I didn't see it as something special. But looking back into my life, I realized that he taught me a lot of the things, and a lot of my personal principles come from him, let's say. So what did I decided to do? Right, you can see on this mind map I have this moment growing up next to my grandfather, and then we have two arrows. I basically separated into two parts. The first part was about his career as a writer. Right, he was very, very passionate about spreading knowledge, and specifically he would spend a lot of time in the art researching about Uzbek World War II veterans and patriotism and military related stuff. So this he was very old, let's say. When I was when I still remembered some stuff, he was, I think, like 75 or 80 when he was doing it all. And for most elderly people, it's not very common to have such a, active lifestyle. He would literally go out every single day into the city. He would go to the libraries, he would go into this office, he would have meetings with his publishers. And this basically had a great influence on me because it showed me that no matter your age, if you're passionate about something, nothing should stop you. But also, his example was, very important in terms of teaching me about the commitment to spreading knowledge. About spreading knowledge, he was, spreading knowledge about World War II veterans, speaking of their stories. And this actually inspired me to spread my own knowledge as well. At the time, as long as I remember myself, I was always good at English. And closer to the end of high school, I decided, though, I should definitely, try to help out my peers. I started working as a tutor for IELTS and SAT as well. So basically linked it to, this is what my childhood looked like. This is how my grandfather influenced me, and this is what I did as a result. So his commitment to spreading knowledge inspired me to become a tutor on my own. Another thing about my grandfather is that he was also a cancer warrior. So he had cancer, and as many of you know, having cancer basically means that you start to realize that your life is probably coming to an end. And especially if you have cancer at a very old age, this can limit your physical ability. But for him, it looked like he was not even sick, even though he had a very serious stage where cancer couldn't be reversed. He was still, so passionate about finishing his book. And this basically taught me the importance of resilience and determination. Just seeing a person who, despite his very old age, despite having, problems with moving and, let's say, physical disability to a certain extent, he was still very, very involved in his career, even at the age of like 82. So this is what I talked about. As you can see, there's another blue highlight here. I'm still talking about my upbringing. So this is basically the first part, upbringing and culture. One of the personal elements. The blue one is about my family, living in Uzbekistan, some traditions that exist in Uzbek families. So as you can see, the first half focused mostly about where I grew up. What did the society look like? And also, yeah, as you can see, here's this just like a funny comment because whenever I talk about him, about this essay, a lot of people start questioning it like, did you make stuff up? Did you actually have a grandfather like that? Yes, I did. I'm not making stuff up. I don't know why people would even think that. You can Google him if that interests you. But yeah, this is just like a funny comment that I decided to make. Moving on. Another question, another big essay that Brown asks you is whether big or small, mundane or spectacular, tell us about something that brings you joy. And as you can see, it is minimum 200 words. I just want you to pay attention here. This third essay asks you to talk about something that brings you joy for at least 200 words. But pay attention to question 7. The why Brown question is only 50 words maximum. So this basically should, signal something to you. The university doesn't want to hear on how good they are or how prestigious they are. Instead, they're looking to see who you are and who are you apart from academics. So this is I think the only essay that, didn't have an equivalent in any other university. And I think that Brown does really care about something that brings you joy, and it shouldn't be something like academics, right? If you already talked about a certain extracurricular activity here and there, please don't talk about it in question number 3. So what I decided to do is I made another mind map. As you can see, I love doing stuff like that because it helps you, visualize the structure of your essay. So I basically tried to brainstorm all of the things that bring me joy, and I came up to the small list of 3 elements. So first of all, I love romanticizing life. Yeah, I'm just a girl. Apart from being a student, I'm a human. I love romanticizing life and trying to find good stuff and focusing on positive stuff. I'm also a big photography geek. I love taking pictures. I have a camera. I've been doing it for like 4 years at this point. And I love just capturing the world around me. And also, I love music. I love listening to music and I also love performing music. And then I decided to think, is there an activity? I don't mean an extracurricular activity, but is there something in my life that I do that combines all of these interests? And I realized that I do have something like that. Basically, I have this little tradition of making a monthly collage with a Spotify receipt. So you can see this is the latest example. And also in the small picture, I have like a screenshot from my Instagram highlights. I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. In January, I started it in January 2022. And I think the story on why I even started doing this is also shows a certain glimpse into my personality. So the thing is that when I just started using when I started using social media more and more, um, sometime in 2021, 2022, I felt that it was like very toxic because I would follow lots of successful people, lots of people who would only post about good things in their life. And I would constantly compare my life to their life. And I would wonder why my life looks nothing like that. And it suddenly becomes a never ending vicious circle, let's say. Once you start comparing your life to others, your life will get more and more depressive because on social media you only see the best world, let's say. People don't post 100% of their life on social media. It's only like the top 5%, top, I don't know, even probably less. So I had those like big insecurities and I would say mental health problems when it came to social media. And in January 2022 I decided to stop this because I felt like it was not a very healthy direction to go in. And what I decided to do is that, okay, we are starting a new year. I'm going to start romanticizing my life. I'm going to start taking pictures of everything that I do. Well, by everything, I mean not literally everything, but taking as many pictures as possible. And it doesn't matter if it looks pretty, it doesn't matter if it's aesthetic or not. I would just take pictures of everything. If I was doing my homework, if I had a pretty breakfast, if I had, I don't know, a picture with my friends. And then at the end of January, I sat down, I looked back at it, and I realized that even though most of my days felt really boring, it was just, me going to school, doing homework. When you combine it all into a collage, you suddenly start seeing a very big picture. And doing this consistently since January 2022 helped me realize that even though some months will be filled with certain boring moments like study sessions, food, presentation slides, and stuff like that, some other months will be really, really, I don't know, interesting because I could travel, or there would be lots of meetings with friends and stuff like that. So it helped me, establish a healthier relationship with social media. And there's this one quote that I really like from this essay. I wrote this in the conclusion. This tradition helped me realize that beauty lies not just in the grand adventures, but in the subtle, often overlooked moments that collectively shape my experience. So basically, one day doesn't make that big of a difference. But when you look at it from the bird's view, from the bird's perspective, you actually start realize that your life is not that bad, and it helps you be more grateful. So this is what I wrote about, how this tradition helps me maintain a really positive mindset. It helps me notice good things that are in my life, and it also helps me, be grateful, consistently, not just in the moments when I feel good, but feeling grateful for what you have is, a skill that I think everyone should develop. So as you can see here, the highlighted color has changed. Previously it was blue, but now it's pink. So it means that I'm talking about my hobbies and my different interests. So this is what I wrote about, to show something that, wasn't really reflected in my extracurricular activities. And my extracurricular activities, I did not include anything about photography, my love for making collages or stuff like that, because this is just a silly little hobby that I have, but I still hold it very close to my heart, let's say. Moving on, we also have a couple of very, very short questions that are very straightforward. What three words best describe you? I feel like I thought about it for a couple of hours. It was very hard to think of it, to come up with ideas, because the most obvious and cliche path to take is to write three adjectives, something like hardworking, motivated, persistent, and something like that. So I thought of it like, I don't think I need to describe myself in adjectives, because if my admission officer is going to read my essay, he or she will be able to draw these conclusions. They will be able to describe me through my story, right? From examples. It's going to be super obvious. I don't need to be repetitive. Instead, let me think about what else I haven't mentioned about myself, about what makes Alloma Alloma, apart from an 8.5 in IELTS, apart from a 1520 on the SAT. Obviously, I decided to write down the word persistent because this is the adjective that will describe me at any point in my life, right? I'm just in Russian. There's the saying "uporty как козел." Like if I want to do something, it's not only about academics. If I need something, I'm gonna get it. So, and also, I feel like this adjective circled back to my story about my grandfather, about how he taught me the importance of resilience, determination, and the, I would say persistent is quite a synonym for it. So, as you can see, I'm not just putting something out there randomly. I'm trying to connect it to a different essay. So persistent here was mentioned, and it was also mentioned in my essay about my grandfather. And this is a thing that I would suggest to most of you. If you throw in bits of your personality here and there, think about how to connect those dots. Not just randomly shouting different facts about you, but trying to build a picture. Another thing, right? The two words was the remaining two words were Swifty, which is like a Taylor Swift fan, right? I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, and as you can see, this connects back to music, right? In the previous essay about my collages, I also have a receipt of the most played artists and songs from that month. And in most of the cases, there was lots of Taylor Swift there. So I wrote down the word Swifty. And I also wrote down the word Polaroids. I love taking Polaroid pictures. I love printing them. And also, in most of my collages, you can see the nicest memories or the best moments are also put in those Polaroid pictures. So yeah, Polaroids were one of my essence objects. Remember, I mentioned Harry Potter with his goggles? Not goggles, with his glasses. So, my essence object, at least in my opinion, are Polaroids, because most of my friends also mention that. Whenever they think of Alloma, they think of Polaroids. And now we come to the probably the most intimidating but also exciting part of applying to Brown, which is the video portfolio. Basically, a video portfolio is that you can record a 2-minute video, either about they give you a set of questions, or you can make it like anything. I decided that answering the questions will be too boring, so I decided to take the more creative path. And sorry, yeah, I decided to take a more creative path and give a tour of my workspace. So remember, I mentioned those essence objects. My workspace is basically a collection of all those essence objects. So so what I decided to do is show how different objects in my workspace, you can see the picture of my workspace here, represent different interests of mine, or they represent different parts of my growing up, or they represent some of my extracurricular activities. So you can see the most noticeable thing is probably the collage. And also you can notice like lots of Polaroid pictures there as well. I have a couple of big posters, but mostly it's like different memories printed in the form of a Polaroid. And also I have like a bookshelf on top of it. And for some reason it's not really visible, but above the bookshelf you can see a couple of name tags. Let me see if I can do this. Laser pointer. Yes, here. So here I have a collection of name tags. So whenever you go to any conference, they give you like a name tag where there's just your name and your committee. And also here I have like, Harry Potter books. I even have this like Harry a magical wand. And so, yeah, I decided to write down a list of objects that I have that I feel like could show different parts of my personality that were either previously mentioned but not enough, or something completely new. So, speaking of name badges, right? I started my video with my tour with those name badges right here. I zoomed in and I said that, well, these name badges are mostly from MUN conferences. And I talked about MUN conference. As you can see, right, this is me talking, and I included like pictures here and there, show that I actually did this activity. And I talked about how MUNs helped me grow from a very introverted kid to a more, let's say, confident speaker. After I talked about MUNs, as you can see, it's highlighted in green. Green is the color for extracurricular activities. Then I switched back to hobbies and interests back. So I talked about Harry Potter books, something that, is not related to academics whatsoever, but actually, Harry Potter was a big part of my childhood. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and also Harry Potter helped me learn English. All right, I never lived in the States, never went to like paid learning centers to learn English. What I did was, I was such a big Harry Potter fan. I read all of the books in Russian multiple times, and I probably memorized them at that point. So I decided to read them in English. And here you can see the English book collection. And this is how I learned English. I actually even made a joke that Harry Potter universe taught me more English than my school ever did. So after that, I said that speaking of language learning, you can also notice that most of these Polaroid pictures are taken in Germany. And I talked about my exchange program in Germany and how what effect it had on my life, basically. What did I learn from it? Yeah, about the importance of this exchange program. And while everything was going on, like every single time I would talk about an essence object, I would have a frame like this where I put a lot of pictures associated with that. And closer to the end of the video, I said something like, well, music has also been a constant companion in my life. And you can hear on the background a song that I've been playing. So, as background music, I used a piano song that I learned and that I had, and then I showed a little bit of my playing as well. And I also connected it back to what I learned from this experience. For me, I am a self-taught pianist, so I didn't go to musical school. I taught myself how to play piano during COVID, and I said that the this serves as a testament to my determination, of as a testament of my determination to learning, and not just learning things that are related to my academic fields, but something that helps me engage my brain in a little bit of a different way, let's say. So, this I feel like is a lot of information to throw in, but I try to make it as organized as possible, and I really hope those mind maps help you somehow, because for me, they helped a lot. And when I was planning my video, this is the exact same thing that I wrote down. I actually went back to my notes. Yeah, so one of the things that I really, really hope that you guys learn from this workshop is, don't be scared to show different parts of your personality. This is what makes you human, and always try to connect those parts of your personality to something that was already, let's say, mentioned in your application elsewhere. Yeah, I think this is the end of my slides. So what are we doing next?
So, thank you so much for your presentation. It was really, really cool with lots of new information about you. Because before I read your posts on Telegram about that you were a Taylor Swift fan and about Polaroids, of course, but everything else, like about information about your grandfather and about that you are a pianist, self-taught pianist, that these information were new for me. That was really cool. And how structured your plan to apply to Brown, how it was planned, like it was really cool as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we are going to move to our essay reviewing part. I'm going to send you the link, just a second. Now I will send you an essay, and you are going to I sent the link. You are going to
Mhm.
review it for our audience.
Okay, great. So, okay, let me start screen sharing.
Mhm.
All
So
right.
the essay is about mainly is about leadership and teamwork. So let's see.
Hmm. Okay, so there are two essays, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
There are two essays here. Are we reviewing the first one?
Hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So, describe an experience where you learned the importance of teamwork and leadership. How did this experience shape your goals and values? Okay, when I broke my like the news, when I broke my like the news to my volunteer team, oh, when I broke the news to my volunteer team, we were in a church basement cleaning up after the final of the summer. I tried to downplay it. I nudged Miss Diana, the neighborhood leader, on the shoulder and said, "Guess what I'll be doing next Wednesday? Having lunch with the president." Okay, this is definitely an unexpected turn. At first, I was like confused. What is it about? So yeah, good. Her face blazed with a kilowatt smile. Before I could slow her down, she shouted, "Henry's meeting President Obama next week." Elder Elder dropped his boom. Miss Sheila left the cups scattered on the floor, and all the running over and with questions. Yes, the campaign had chosen me from all of the summer organizers. Yes, I will bring photos for everyone. And yes, we had the strongest team by numbers, total calls, mixed voter registration, and events in the country. I felt guilty that only I could go and tell them so. I wish I had, I wish that I could bring you with me. You made nearly all of the calls, brought your friends and family along, and made this what it is. I've just been here to facilitate. I'm a little confused. Yes, I should. Sheila left the cup scattered. So he was the only person from his volunteer team meeting the president, right? I wish I had the others could not. The others good-naturedly shouted me down. Then Miss Melva spoke up. Her words were pressed out against the heaving of her respirator. "Henry, don't feel bad. You'll bring whatever you go in your pocket. Just pull out when you meet Barack." For a long time, I was perplexed by her advice. Then I thought back to the exercise that we employed before any volunteer activity. We sat in a circle and gave our reasons for being in the room, willing to work with the campaign. That way, when it came to make our hard ask on the phones, we could be supported by personal conviction and shared purpose. The hard ask is the Obama's campaign tactic for garnering support or a commitment to volunteer, moving from values and idealism to a specific action. In my work on the campaign, I am reminded of my cross country coach, Rob. Okay, so we have a new character, Rob. Before every single race, from petty League meets to national championships, Rob taps the spot on his thigh where a pocket would be. We look at our teammates who are lining up with us and tap the same spot. Coach Rob is reminding us that we're reminding each other that we carry the bastard in our pockets with us throughout the race. The bastard in your pocket is a metaphor for the sum of our efforts to succeed as runners. The bastard exists as a sort of a platonic ideal from of the high school country runner melded from accurate millage and mental conditioning. My goal in a race is to take this ideal and transform it into a reality that lives on the course. Okay, is this a personal statement?
I guess that's a supplemental essay because the
So this
title
is
of
so
it
long,
was
so
about
many
leadership and
characters. I
teamwork.
have to. this, I want an education that fills my pocket, and perhaps more importantly, an education that prompts hard questions that demand us to use the bustard and the you that uses the compounded experience of a group for a single purpose. Okay, so I see those metaphors. I like that the throughout the essay the student was, introducing different metaphors, like here something that fills his pockets, and also the bastard, right? Whenever you mention something quirky, make sure to circle back. Compounded experience of a group for a single purpose, right? So the question was, describe an experience where you learn the importance of teamwork and leadership. Also, is this like a random essay from the internet, or did someone wrote it?
I guess that's an essay from an internet because the writer talks about Obama, and in Uzbekistan, I guess we do not have people that met Obama or that will talk about Obama.
Yeah, all right. Is this like a successful essay, or is it just like a random essay from Reddit or something?
And I guess that's a successful essay.
Because look, the first time I read it, like I just read it once, and I feel like what I
Mhm.
really want to do, obviously I'm not used to, reviewing stuff online in front of people. Usually when I do like different consultations and stuff, what I like to do is just go back and reread the essay like
Mhm.
multiple times just completely on my own. Right now, I'm a little bit confused, probably because it's like evening and I'm tired. So basically this person is talking about a personal anecdote of how he is a part of a volunteer team and he got to meet President Obama. Um, and none of his other teammates got to do that. Filtered, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I could bring photos for everyone. And yes, we had the strongest team by the numbers. And he felt guilty because he was the only person doing that, while he realized that, everyone else probably deserved to do it, but for some reason he was chosen.
Mhm.
Henry, don't feel bad. You'll bring us wherever you go and here is the pocket thing. Yeah. So basically, you are your teammates are always with you. I hope this is what he's trying to imply through this metaphor. Just pull us out when you just pull us out. So pulling something out of your pocket, right? So even though his teammates will not be physically there, they're always with him in his, let's say, heart. In most of the cases, people say, I'm always with you in your heart, or say something like that. For a long time was perplexed by her advice, so he was questioning it. Then I took back to the exercise that we employed, and then he talked about the exercise. Okay. Yeah, so basically, what am I supposed to do here?
Here you should like focus on some specific stuff. Is the essay creative or is it not, or like give some of your point of views about the essay.
So I feel like in terms of creative writing, it is creative enough. Like no one expects you to be Shakespeare level and stuff like that. But I really like those circle
Mm-hmm.
back moments of how he's introducing um different things like this metaphor with the pocket, but also the bastard in your pocket, right? He's always coming back to this pocket thing. We can even call it an
Mm-hmm.
essence object, right? If the admission officer only reads his essay or her essay once, right? One thing that he or she will remember is the pocket, right? This is, I think, a trick that most of you need to also utilize in your essay. Try to think about, when a person reads my essay for the first time, what are they going to remember? I think in my essay it was fire, but here it's probably going to be pocket. And also, right, I personally feel like there's not enough conclusion. Like, most of it is just talking, 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 introducing new characters, introducing new stuff, adding new layers into the story. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more of a conclusion and a little bit more of an explanation of how did this experience shape your goals and values? What are the goals and values? I can't really
Hmm.
find the answer to that. Melded or humiliate. My goal in Erase A is to take this ideal form and to transform it into a reality that lives in the core, in the course. So yeah, the goal is here. The values. I want an education that fills my pockets, and perhaps more importantly, an education that prompts hard questions. So he likes to challenge himself academically. If he likes, if he encourages asking hard questions that demand us to use the best or that it uses the compounded experience of a group. Right. So I would say that this essay is good enough. It's quite creative. And also, when there are little confusing moments, I feel like sometimes it can be good because it makes the reader go back and actually spend a little bit more time on your essay. I would say that you need to find like the perfect middle. Don't make your essay too confusing, too complicated, so that the reader doesn't understand anything, but including a bit of uncertainty here and there and making those connections, I would say circle back moments, actually makes the reader spend more time on your essay. So I feel like this also could be a positive side of it.
Hmm.
Right.
So, what do you think? Like when a student gives uncertain stuff in the beginning of the essay, and clarifies is at it at the end. What do you think? Is that good, or should the student clarify the uncertain thing during the um, how can I say
Throughout
in
the
the middle
essay.
of the essay? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So I feel like I had a similar issue, or not an issue, but a similar debate when I was writing my personal statement. And I feel like it really depends on what this uncertainty is about. If understanding this element is crucial to understanding what the hell is happening in the essay, then of course you shouldn't wait for the conclusion, right? Try to you can include this uncertainty in the first sentence, but I don't know, in the third sentence, please, explain what it is, because if the reader is confused, it's just impossible to read the essay. Like, you're constantly like questioning it. But if it's just a tiny little element that doesn't really make the whole story, you couldn't explain it at the end. So what I did, because here the person is, when I broke the news to my volunteer team initially, like the first reaction is, which news? We were in a church basement cleaning up after the final of this summer. I'm still asking a question. Which news? I tried to downplay it. Which news? It nudged Miss Diana, the neighborhood, blah, 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 and said, and here he finally breaks it. Because if in this moment he didn't explain, or she, I don't know why I'm assuming that it's he, if they didn't explain what the news is, it would just be very confusing and I wouldn't even be able to finish it. But there are other things as well. For example, this pocket metaphor. He doesn't explain it explicitly, but explains it throughout the essay, and then, it reaches its peak at the end. I had a similar thing. In my personal statement, I had this one sentence that says, but fire was the symbol of my rebirth. Which rebirth, why fire, and stuff like that. I basically talked about a situation where my siblings and I got stuck in a burning house. So this was like a metaphor, and then at the end, I explained that literally coming out of this burning building like changed my life. So it was, it took me more time to
Mm,
explain this metaphor, but at the same time, understanding this metaphor was not essential to being able to, like, I don't know, read through the story.
yeah. All right. Thank you so much for your answer. And below that, we have a Brown specified essay, Brown supplemental essay. So, um, if it's comfortable for you, we will move to the next one so that you can review this one as well. I guess that's going to be a more suitable for you because this is a Brown supplemental essay, as I know.
Yeah, that's okay, completely. All right, so the question is about making their home on College Hill naturally invites reflection on where they come from. Oh yeah, so this is like the question from last year. Okay, it was
Mhm.
an ordinary trip to a Philippine food market until it wasn't. As a curious but a naive 7-year old, my eyes peered toward the top shelf on aisle 6, where a glass jar containing light purple jam set in brilliance. Oh, okay, this is going to be about this Filipino like spread that they have. Why is the jelly so bright? I exclaim. With a helpless sigh followed by her classic Filipino death stare, right? So you can see incorporating a little elements of culture, right? Filipino, apparently they have a death stare. My mom corrected me. It's not jelly, it's ube. To any other Filipino 7-year-old born and raised in America, the jar of mashed purple yam, known as ube, is simply jelly, but apparently not the type that you would want to put on your PBG, so peanut butter and jelly. But it was a common misconception, or rather ignorance, that my Filipino American kids had whenever they had whenever they interacted with a part of themselves that was simultaneously so close and yet so far. So this is obviously written from a perspective of an American student, and they're talking about how you connect back to your culture as an American born, let's say. I've never been to the Philippines, nor do I speak Tagalog, but it's the dissonance that has empowered me to learn about the things that still make me me. Brown is committed to celebrating people for who they are while helping them uncover, deconstruct, and step into parts of their identity that ignorance or lack of opportunity may have shielded them from. Okay, this is good because basically what the student is doing here is that they are connecting something that's important to them to something that Brown values. So they're showing this match. It's like, on Tinder, right? You got to match in order to be accepted. So being able to show that I care about X and Y and you as a university also care about X and Y is really really important, especially like when it comes to writing conclusions. Whether it's by joining Brown's Filipino Alliance or exploring unique histories through Brown's ethnic studies concentration, it's my goal to continue reclaiming the identities I feel far from, as well as the one I have yet to discover, and empower others to do the same. This is a really, really nice essay because I feel like it's not it was much much easier to read it, and I feel like this was way 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 more connected because here the main conclusion is this person, the structure is like they talk about this personal anecdote, and then they explain the background of this personal anecdote. Why the hell is this episode
Mhm.
so specific, so important? And then here they try to match what Brown gives you, what Brown cares about, and what they care about. And they're trying to make this like Venn diagram. So basically, in the conclusion, you can see their goal is to continue reclaiming the identities that they feel far from. So basically, this person is an American born Filipino. They've never been to the Philippines. They don't know what it is to be a real Filipino, but they want to know that. They want to explore this part of themselves, and they also want to empower others to do the same. And they connected back to one of Brown's values, which is helping people discover parts of their identity, um, despite different challenges that you may face on the way. I feel like this is an excellent essay, and the personal anecdote that they chose also very clearly portrays the goal that they have. You always want to work backwards. So if you have a goal of, I don't know, combating gender inequality or improving gender equality, right? Come back to it and try to think of a personal example that shows, for example, how you interacted with this problem or why you care about this problem. The same thing here. This person specifically cares about discovering parts of their culture through a concentration, right? Concentration is like a major. Ethnic studies is like a thing. It's like computer science, like it's like a major. And also being able to mention specific ways on how you plan to do it is also super important. So literally go and stalk the university's website. Go and stalk, literally stalk student clubs, organization, professors. Most of it is accessible online. And people who dig deep are the ones that can write excellent essay. And I really love that they mentioned some very specific ways on how they plan to discover this part of their own identity through the resources that this specific university provides.
Wow, wow, that was a great review. Thanks again. So, right now I'm in the process of writing my personal statement and supplemental essays as well. So, um, I was hearing your review and like it was really helpful. It was really helpful, and definitely it's gonna help my essays in the future, my supplemental essays, my personal statements, all of that. So thank you again, and I guess we can already turn to our third part of live stream, and the third part is live essay writing portion. So I'm gonna send you an essay, and um, on live stream you are going to write for that. So just a second.
Yeah, and also one more thing to mention, I do have another meeting in like 15
Mm-hmm.
minutes. So let's try to
Uh-huh.
do it quick. Yeah,
Yeah, sure, sure.
this was not a planned meeting, but yeah, I just have to be there.
Yeah, sure, sure. So I sent the essay,
Hmm.
and
So describe a personal experience that significantly shaped your values and worldview. How has this experience influenced your academic and career aspirations? How do you plan to incorporate these values into your college journey? Oh, I wrote a similar essay. Where is this essay from?
isn't
Like,
it
is it
brown?
this for any specific college? Feel like the wording is a bit different, but most of the universities, I feel like at least last year, they had lots of essays talking about the exact same thing. So basically, this question is about academics. Even though from the very
Mm,
beginning it mentions a personal experience, what that means is basically, once again, try to utilize this like mind map strategy. This is just how I like to do it. So we have academic interests. I'll try to do it like in Google Docs format. Try to list at least like two, X and Y, right? It's always good to combine two interests, even though you're only interested, I don't know, computer science is like such a popular thing, so I'm gonna assume computer science. Try to include something different as well. So maybe try to pair it with something from the humanities from the humanities subjects or any language. I don't know, to search up certificates. You know, certificates are also a thing in American colleges. You don't have to major in something, but you can get a certificate in like intercultural competence, I don't know, data fluency, something like that. So try to think of two academic interests, or it could also be career aspirations. How do you plan to incorporate these into your, basically, what do you want to do in the future? And how did you become interested in them? So basically, what you're going to do is that your X is going to have, let's say, also, why is it in green? What's going on here? Sorry. I don't know why it's in instant green, but okay. Right. So your X is going to have a transition like personal example. So something from your life that made you interested in an X. And then then obviously, right, you mention X, and then how slash what you wanna do. So, and then here, why. The same thing with why, basically. Right? So I'm going to talk about stuff that I cared about. In my case, X was political science, and Y was gender. In terms of subjects, it's called gender studies, but I was specifically interested in gender inequality and how different aspects, whether it's a religion, culture, I don't know, stereotypes, traditions, how all of that in combination creates gender inequality in, well, I was talking specifically about Uzbekistan. So, in my case, a personal example was for, I think I was like maybe like 8 years old when I asked, when I randomly asked my parents while watching the news, why do we always, why does our, I think it was something like, why does our president stay the same? Or why does, why does our president never change? So basically something like that. I think when I was 8, our president was still Islam Karimov. So yeah, this was just a question that bothered me. I don't know why, but it was just like question that just popped up. I was, as a child, I was a person who would just have such a random question like, why the hell is Mars so far away? And something like that. So this is how I wrote the introduction. So make sure that you make it still a little bit interesting. So try to have some sort of a hook there. Write it in a creative way. I'm just giving you the idea. And then here, I would link this to, okay, so you had this question when you were 8, and then what happened between the ages of 8 and probably right now you're what, 17, 16? Did you somehow interact? How did you interact with this interest? So, for example, for me, it was that I started first as a kid, I started with different encyclopedia books. And then in school, I loved our, let's say, law classes. It was like constitution, something like that. And then later in high school, I became involved in like MUNs, where you basically need lots of background knowledge on how different political systems function. So, and what do you want to do? So, list interesting courses, uh, professors that do research in that field or clubs at that school. There's this one really, really good class that I even mentioned on my Brown supplement video, not video here in the essay. It was something like politics of authoritarianism. I hope I'm spelling this correctly. So, this course focused specifically on authoritarian. I can't even pronounce this word, but авторитарные режимы. So, it was a very interesting course. I found it on Brown's website for courses, and I mentioned that I really want to take this course and combine my experience coming from a similar political system. And I feel like it would offer like a good insight into this classroom, something like that. So try to find courses, professors, and clubs how you want to engage with this academic interest in your college journey. Be as specific as you can. Go stalk professors. In most of the cases, all professors have a thing called a research area. So some professors like to focus specifically on Middle Eastern studies, and I don't know, um, there was this one specific niche that they care about. So you need to find those professors and mention them in your essays because it's going to make it very specific and it will show the admission officers that you actually did your research. The same thing was actually with gender inequality. So what I did was I started off by growing up, I observed my mother work a full-time job and then come home and still perform all of the household labor. I wondered why my dad never had to do that. So I think it was something like that. I can't recall it specifically, but mostly it was about that. And I actually threw it into this very specific niche. Like I talked about how religion and cultural norms influence gender inequality. Not influence, but perpetuate gender inequality. Well, in my case, it was like in Uzbekistan, right? And then I talked about, once again, what do I want to do with that? Do I want to major in this thing? Do I want to just take classes from the gender studies department? I mentioned I mentioned the class. I think it was something like, I can't recall it, but there was one class that talked specifically about gender inequality in developing nations. So yeah, I think I even found a couple of professors that were involved in that. So yeah, I hope this kind of like helps you at least draft or see the plan of where this essay could be developed. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Right. So any
So,
questions?
so thanks a lot again for um, for reviewing the essays, for giving lots of information on your presentation, and of course for live essay writing portion of our live stream. Um, so if you have another meeting after like 10 minutes, I guess we can conclude our today's session. And yeah, I think Alloma deserves a lot of applauses because she had another meeting and she agreed to held a live stream for us for Unicrafters. And yeah, I guess she really, really deserves our applauses. So I can clap for you. I can
Thank
clap
you.
for you. So uh, as I said, like there were really lots of new information, um, lots of new information on your presentation. And as I said, your essay writing, live essay writing, and your review was really, really helpful, not just for me, but for every Unicrafter, every how can I say, every audience that is watching us right now on live stream. And yeah, thank you so much again. And I guess we can end our today's live stream. Um, so,
Yeah.
uh,
Thank you guys for having me. It was a
thank you. Thank you.
pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can say your final thoughts about today's live stream, of course.
Oh, well, I hope it went well, right? You learned something new, and good luck to everyone
Yeah.
applying this year. I know Common App is already open, so good luck with your applications. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was amazing. So if you want
Right.
to hear other stories about Alloma, you can subscribe to her Telegram channel, to her Instagram account, of course, and do not, of course, forget to visit our Unicraft website, unicraft.us, and read other stories to get lots of new information about application process. So thank you
Mhm.
so much. Thanks so much
Great.
again.
Bye bye.
And bye. Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.